What's up, football fans? Welcome to another episode of the Bleav in Big Ten podcast. I am Brandon Brown, joined as always by former Michigan wide receiver Grant Perry. Grant, your alma mater off this week, so no talks of the Wolverines in week. I guess we'll call this week 5. A lot of teams have got 3, 4, 5 games under their belt. Some of them with that week 0, but 6 games this week in the Big Ten, Grant. So there's quite a few teams in the conference on a bye. But there's some good ones, man. I mean, you and I were talking, we, of course, I've been in the Michigan market for the better part of 10 years. You played there. So that's where our focus lies most weekends. But when Michigan's on a bye, we look down the slate, and there is a slate this weekend, not only in the Big Ten, but really kind of across the country. A couple big ones in the SEC as well. But we're going to focus on the Big Ten. There are 2 ranked matchups. Even a couple of the games that aren't both teams being ranked are actually pretty solid. So some pretty fun stuff to talk about. Grant, do you feel just as locked into a football weekend when Michigan's not on the table, or is it? Do you take a little bit of a breath? Because I mean, dude, some of the games are just awesome this weekend.
That's a fantastic question. So I actually have bump my mic there. I actually have a train of thought behind that, and also my Lions too come Sunday.
Sure.
So I obviously I love when they play, and like half my day is carved out around when they play. Like that's the only game up on the TV. I'll have my side TVs for whatever other big games on, but like that's the main attraction. Mm-hmm. I will say like a primetime Michigan game, whether it's 7:00 or if like the Lions, for example, Monday night game. I kind of do love that in a sense of selfishness from my point of view, where I get to just absolutely indulge on every game throughout the day. And I have to really focus on what's Michigan doing. Like, I just know that they're coming, right? And same with the Lions and the NFL. Like, I get to, put in all my fun parlays and look at that and wait for the game that I really want to watch. So it's not that I get upset that they're not playing. I guess my focus and my attention, broadens, and I get to see more teams and pay attention to other, pieces and places.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I didn't play at Michigan, but now having covered the team for 10 years, and my dad has about smacked me from saying this before. It almost feels like a day off. Like I don't have to really do the work and be. Yes, it's not work. I understand. Like I watch football for a living. Essentially, I get to go. I was in Nebraska. Like it's incredible. But when Michigan's not on the slate, it is a little bit like I can just kind of take a breath. I'll watch this game. I'll watch that game. I'll put 2 or 3 games on at once because I'm like you. When Michigan's on, that's pretty much it. Like I might have another one playing, but I'm not really watching it that much. But when I can put on a Georgia game and then there's a USC game, there's an Ohio State, I can just watch them all, and like I can just kind of tap into which one is the more important one at that time or wherever they're at in the game. So I'm with you. With that being said, though, Grant, the Big Ten will kick off on this Saturday. Couple noon games, but the big one at noon on Fox is 2 ranked teams. USC traveling to Illinois, and my goodness, are the Illini licking their wounds a little bit after getting absolutely shellacked by Indiana last weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit. Not looking back too much instead of looking forward, but hard not to mention that beatdown. But yeah, the Trojans coming to Illinois. Anytime, we've talked about this in the past, anytime an East Coast team goes to the West Coast or vice versa, there's a little bit to wonder, like, what's USC going to feel like playing a game at essentially 9 a.m. for them? Like that's very different for your body clock and things like that. The Trojans are favored by 6.5. I wonder if it would be that much if Illinois didn't get spanked last week, but yeah, thoughts on this one to kick the games off at noon? USC traveling to Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll start off. We'll get the conversation going here, Brandon. Question for you regarding this USC Illinois. Do you think Illinois deserves to be ranked right now? Is that like after a 58 point loss? Like, yeah. And I, as I go through and listen to podcasts and watch, like that was the big talk of town, like coming into this week is like, Illinois still ranked? Is that worthy?
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, I remember when that game was getting queued up, and I'm thinking like Illinois number 9. Give me a break. They are not the 9th best team in the country, and Indiana I think proved that. They're barely hanging on. They're at 23. It's not like they fell. That's 14 spots. Granted, you lose by 53. Like you could probably justify falling all the way out. I mean, it's early still. if they lose this week to USC, they can kiss that ranking goodbye for probably the rest of the year. I mean, water will find its level. I think that's a valid question. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Illinois. I know you and I were both pretty high on Luke Altmaier coming into the season. We liked what they were doing. I thought number 9 was probably too high for them, and it played out that way. But I guess I'm okay with it now. I mean, you fall 14 spots. That's a pretty big tumble. Yeah. But I think they were probably ranked too high to begin with at 9. So I could go either way. I mean, if they had fallen all the way out, I'd be fine with it. They're sitting at 23. Shut everyone up and beat USC, and then we'll have a discussion. But right now they're 6.5 point dogs. So I'm cool with it for now. But I mean, if they had fallen out, I'd have been fine with that too.
Yeah. And and they're sitting in a position where if they get a win here versus USC, who has shown that USC might be something this year out west, I think that would be really beneficial for that Illinois program, especially after that prime time, all eyes on me type of loss. And going into that game, Brandon, the spread was 6.5. It even bumped to 7 right as kickoff was going on, and I'm like, what am I missing here? I know. Indiana and Cignetti are they've earned that right. Last year they proved it. This year they're scoring a lot of points. But Illinois, they had a lot of respect. They had a little bit of a tougher schedule going in. They played Duke on the road, and that Duke win maybe isn't looking as good as it was 2 weeks ago. But I thought going into that game, I thought 6.5. I thought that was a little too friendly on the side of Illinois, a little too disrespectful for Brent Bielema. But boy, was I wrong. Add another 40 on, and you're still not covering.
Yeah, that is. Nobody thought it was going to look like. I mean, 53 points in conference. I mean, that's hard to do if you take an Ohio State or a Penn State against a Purdue or no disrespect, but some of the teams at the bottom of the like you said, these are supposed to be 2 pretty evenly matched teams trying to make their way a little bit. In years past, they haven't been the cream of the crop, but they've both been solid recently. And I never saw it coming. I never saw a 53-point win for the Hoosiers in that one. And Illinois has a ton to prove now this week with USC coming to town.
Did you get a chance to see, I know the game kicked off at 2 a.m. Did you get a chance to see any of that Michigan State USC out west this past Saturday?
I did. I watched a little bit. I don't think I finished it, but USC looked more explosive. They looked faster. They looked more athletic. Michigan State still trying to figure it out a little bit. Aiden Childs has done some really nice things, but he still looks like he has another step he could take. And it looked like that against USC a little bit. But no, I don't think I watched the entire thing. I remember being kind of excited to watch it when it started, and then it looked like USC was going to handle them. And what they ended up winning by? Was it 14 or 18 or 20?
Yeah, it was 14. It's funny because I had a couple of friends come over. I was back home, and I got a bunch of Michigan State friends, and they came over. We're watching it, and I had I think it was a 3-team parlay. The first 2 teams hit, and then I had Michigan State plus 18.5, and they go down 21 with 3 minutes left, and their offense in the second half wasn't doing anything. I mean, they moved the ball in the first half. Second half, USC stepped in, and then 3 minutes left in the game. Aiden Childs throws basically a Hail Mary go ball to his receiver one-on-one, catches it, runs it in, and it covers. I was like, oh my God, I do not need to be sweating here at 1 a.m. So it was a little too much. But
that was the very deep ball, the number 1. I think he got behind everybody and
the quarterback for USC underplayed it, and the receiver made a good play and had a walk-in touchdown. But USC looked good, man. I think their offense, Mekhi Lemon, and they also last week they didn't have Jacoby Lane too, who is that 6'4" receiver target who I thought was gonna go to work against Michigan State, but he was out. Interested to see if he's back this week versus Illinois. He's a big red zone factor. Mekhi Lemon playing arguably the best at receiver in the country. He literally looks like a copy and paste almost of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Illinois, their defense better step up to play here again, because this is an offense in USC that's going to be bringing some firepower from the West.
I'm personally going to take USC minus 6.5. I think, different teams can respond differently to losses, and certain types of losses I think can have different effects. You lose a close one, it's real emotional. It's bad. That can be galvanizing. That can be a motivator. You get waxed by 50. I think that shakes your confidence, man. I mean, I really think everybody in that locker room, I mean, they're all competitors. They want to get back out there and try it again. But I think, USC goes up by 7 or 10 and that's it. They're just, I think that kind of loss really can rattle a team, maybe for several games, if not the whole season. I mean, I've never been in that in that environment. And damn, dude, I don't know if you ever lost a game by that many points going all the way back to when you started playing. But that's a lot to process when you were, it was supposed to be a close game. You were ranked in the top 10, and to get beat like that, I think it can really hurt a team's psyche.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's when you look at it too, because I know I did, and I know some other people did. Like Illinois going into this year was people kind of wanted them to be the the Indiana of last year. Like, hey, they're bringing back some good pieces. The quarterback's coming back. Like their defense played well last year. Like they could be that playoff contender for that spot, in the Big Ten that nobody really sees. But when you lose to Indiana, who's done it, they did it last year by 50 some, by like 40, whatever it was. Like I agree with you. I think that loss could really like shock the system. Like, man, are we good enough to even like think about playoffs? Like, are we just a 6-win happy bowl team? Like, so I agree. I'm going to take USC in that one spread. Only way I see it, being covered is if they come out slow and it's a game back and forth. USC or Illinois maybe gets on the the ground game going, but I'm going to roll with USC, the hot team on that one too.
Which you do have to take into account, again, the 9 a.m., for USC, the 9 a.m. start. Sluggish starts pretty easy to do when you're not used to playing that early. So yeah, FanDuel, again, the 6.5 point spread. I'm taking the Trojans. Grant's taking the Trojans. We'll see if Illinois can bounce back from a horrendous loss last week at the hands of Indiana. Game 2, Rutgers at Minnesota. Not going to spend a lot of time on this one. Two teams, kind of trying to figure it out a little bit. It's in Minnesota. It's at noon. And right now, Minnesota is favored by 4.5. I'll take that. I don't know a lot about these teams. I haven't watched a lot of them in depth, but Minnesota being at home, Rutgers getting some inconsistent play at quarterback. I know Minnesota's got a young QB who's kind of figuring it out a little bit still, but I'll roll with PJ Fleck and the Gophers on that one with the home field advantage to cover 4.5. And that, if I was putting real money on this one, Grant, I'm staying away. I just don't know enough about these two teams, and they feel like they're both kind of trying to figure it out. And it might be a battle, but I would take the Gophers if I had to.
Yeah, and that's a safe bet. This is you hit it right on the head. This is one of those games where if you are putting a couple bets in for the weekend, you're like, I'm probably going to stay away from that one. And you looked at the game last week that Rutgers played. They played Iowa on a Friday, and I'm looking at that game. The over was at like 48, 47. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't know what's going to happen in that game. And then both teams had 21 going into halftime. So like, pretty unpredictable stuff.
Yeah.
I did like how Rutgers came out and played Iowa last week. They were in the game, and then just late, they just couldn't get the ball moving. They couldn't convert. And then Iowa just kind of did what they do, ran the ball, defense stepped up. Minnesota, they had their one loss to Cal out west. That quarterback for Cal, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to butcher it, and I apologize. But
stick with JKS. Very easy that way. Just go there. That's how all JKS? The announcers, they take the shortcut as well. The announcers will go JKS. Yes.
Thank you. And I feel comfortable saying that because everyone's been saying that. Like the convo is like, hey, no one's talking about this kid probably because they can't say his name. But yeah, I think this is a toss up. PJ Fleck at home. I'll take the Gophers on this one as well.
Good Lord, that is a mouthful. I don't even know how to say his first name. Is it Jaron? I'm not even positive. And that's the easy one.
Take a swing at it right now. Let's see it.
Jaron Kioe Sagapolutele.
Ooh, I'll tell you something. Mine would have sounded a lot worse than that.
Yeah, so. JKS much easier, and he's been nice, man. I mean, another freshman making waves out there. A lot of people in our neck of the woods probably haven't seen a lot of Cal, but there's a lot of talking heads talking about. I saw I'm digressing a little bit. We're already at 14 minutes, Grant. You know how it works for us. We're trying to get to 24.
Guys talking ball, baby.
It never fails. But I saw a lot of different talking heads. I Bleav it was a dude from Barstool that I actually saw where they were like, man, we have been talking about the wrong QBs all offseason. He's like, Arch Manning stinks. DJ Lagway stinks. He's like, we should be talking about Bryce Underwood and JKS and John Mateer and I mean, there's a bunch. And now John Mateer's hurt. I know that's kind of a bummer. Michigan fans obviously saw the best of him, but yeah, there's a lot of quarterbacks making names for themselves, and it's not the big names that we've been talking about all offseason. And the freshman out in Cal, again, he's one of them, and he's been doing some big things. Michigan fans would say, "Oh, Bryce Underwood, best true freshman quarterback in the country." I don't know. The kid out in Cal's doing some things, and he looks pretty good too. So. Yeah, that's pretty cool to see whenever those young guys can step up. All right, Ohio State, number 1 in the country, Going to Washington, though, Grant, this is the opposite of what we talked about with USC coming east. Now you've got Ohio State going west. It's a 3:30 kick, so that doesn't kill them. That doesn't crush them. That's a noon kickoff essentially for them. I'm sorry, the other way around, but it's not quite of a shock to the system as the USC thing coming east. But yeah, that's still a tough place to play. That stadium can be nuts. You and I have talked a lot about how high we are on Damon Williams and how he can get loose and make some plays. Ohio State favored by 8.5, Grant. I think I got to go Buckeyes, though. I think I got to go Buckeyes. They're just too good. They have too many weapons. They're too athletic, too fast.
You're taking the spread?
I'm taking the spread. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 10-point win, but that would cover. So I'm going to take Ohio State to cover the 8.5.
I think that's a safe bet. Yeah, I think and a couple of things factor into that for me as well. Like Washington at 3:30 is a different place versus Washington at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
That is that might give you 3 points of leverage there in your betting world. But again, too, and I think when you look at these offenses, you can even argue that Ohio State has the tougher games played. They played Texas, but when you look at the offenses in general and the success on both of these teams, you could make an argument that Washington has more defined pieces on offense, more guys that have been playing better thus far this season. Now the competition may vary, but they have a three-headed monster in Damon Williams at quarterback, Jonah Coleman at running back, and then Denzel Boston at receiver. And it's not just Denzel. Denzel's going to be a high draft pick here next year, but there's some other pieces at receiver as well that have been playing well. And the quarterback, Damon Williams, at like 75% completion percentage on the year. The only thing that scares me is that Washington defense. They've been giving up a lot of points to teams that probably, if you're going to be a top tier Big Ten team, you probably limit more points, versus some of those smaller teams. Like I think they gave up 30 plus to Washington State in that Apple Cup last week. But I'm gonna lean here. I'm gonna go against you here, Brandon. I'm gonna roll with Jed Fish. I'm gonna take plus the points. I'm just gonna say that going off of last game for Ohio State, they played Ohio. I think it was a 1-score game in that third quarter. So if Washington can use a little bit of that crowd momentum, Damon Williams smart with those throws, stays in that 70-75%, and Jonah Coleman can run that football, they can move the chains. I could see them losing late, covering that spread. So I'll take that plus 8.5 for Washington.
Like I said, I don't think Ohio State runs away with it. I think if they cover, it's a close cover. Like I said, 10 points, maybe something like that. And to your point, Washington has scored a lot. Their offense can score points, but they gave up 21 against Colorado State, just 10 to UC Davis, and 24 to Washington State on the road last week. Won by 35, 59-24, in what's supposed to be a rivalry game. Scored 70 again, UC Davis, excuse me, and then beat Colorado State by 17. So yeah, they've been able to score, but they have been giving up some points. I think that's bad for them because Ohio State can certainly score. And I will take Ohio State to cover the 8.5. Moving on to another 3:30 game. Those Hoosiers, man. Those freaking Hoosiers. Those 11th ranked Indiana Hoosiers going to Iowa, though. Iowa also can be a tough place to play. It's probably the case for most stadiums in the country, but there are a few that when you go into those stadiums at night, it is a problem. And Iowa would be one of them. But Indiana gets them at 3:30, so they don't have to deal with that quite as it's not quite as big of a deal. But the Hoosiers, man, favored by 7.5, and I'm taking them. They have shown that they can score points. Iowa always struggles to score points. I will take the Hoosiers to cover 7.5. I know Iowa is solid. They don't hurt themselves in a lot of cases. Quarterback Mark Gronowski's kind of figuring it out a little bit. But yeah, give me the high-flying Signettis, baby. They are rolling, dude. After last week, I don't know how you could go against them until they run into maybe one of the big buzzsaws in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Iowa, they've been in some close games here. They were in a close game on the road at Rutgers. I mean, they lost to Iowa State. They've shown that they can compete, but there's limitations to the Iowa, offense. And, the defense isn't quite looking like what it has in years past for Iowa as well, giving up 20 plus. I forget the score versus Rutgers, but they ended up getting
38-28 in that one. Yeah.
So they gave up 28 points, and Iowa in years past usually holds Rutgers, to a smaller standard than that. But I mean, when you look at Indiana, 4th ranked defense, 6th ranked offense, like I'm rolling with the Hoosiers, man. Not only can they score, I mean, Mendoza last week, it was like he was doing routes on air. He was, I want to say, high 70s in completion percentage versus Illinois. Like they made Illinois look like not Illinois. And I got a feeling that, like you said, not at night in Kinnick. When you play at night in Kinnick, you better bring everything you have, because I have vivid memories in Kinnick at night, looking up at the scoreboard, seeing that Clemson lost to Pitt. We're at number 5, and this is back when 4 teams could make the playoff. I'm thinking, oh my God, everyone, we're in warm-ups on Kinnick Field. We're like, hey, we win this. We're at the 4th spot. We're in the playoff. Like, let's go. And then we lose by a field goal on the last second. So Kinnick can take some dreams away from you, but this is at 3:30. Defense and offense for Indiana has been playing well. I'm going to roll with the Hoosiers.
When I started to talk about Kinnick at night, I was trying to remember if you would have been on the team at that time. Was that Wilton Spate?
Yeah, that was Wilton Spate.
Yeah, man, and you got, I think, undefeated at the time. No.
Yeah, it was 2016.
Yeah, man.
We used that. I mean, we didn't lose after that, and then we had that JT was short.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so who better to talk about Kinnick at night? But Indiana gets them at 3:30. I think that does make. I think you're right. I mean, I think you said, Washington might be worth 3 points at night. I'd say the same about Iowa. I mean, there's some places, you go in there at night and it's a problem. So I'm rolling with Indiana though, like you said, -7.5 per FanDuel. You beat a team that you're supposed to be in a tight one with by 53, and I'm just ready to see what it looks like in the following week. So we'll see what that one looks like. Last 3:30 game of the day, Grant, and this one could be a stinker. I just want to throw that out there. What the hell is happening at UCLA? Deshaun Foster fired after, just embarrassing loss after embarrassing loss. The Bruins are still looking for their first win. I was high on Nico Iamaleava coming into the season. I was wrong. He's actually not been horrible, but they just can't. They can't figure it out. They got smacked by Utah. Then you lose to UNLV. Then you lose to New Mexico by 25, bro. 25. Now, that New Mexico team is much better than they were last year. I don't think there's any question. I mean, Michigan beat them, but it wasn't a bulldozing. So shout out to Coach Eck out there. I know you did a great job of breaking down what their team's all about, and they're better than they have been in recent years. But UCLA paid those teams to come play and got handled really by both. And now they don't have a head coach. They have an interim stepping in. Northwestern, not a great team either, but the Wildcats are favored by 6.5 at home. Again, we've got another West Coast team coming to the East Coast. I don't know, man. I'll take Northwestern. I mean, I would think that Northwestern's better than maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm taking Northwestern -6.5. Give me the Wildcats to win by like 7. Might be like 7-0.
It really could. Yeah, it could be 7-0, and you'd be a happy man there with that bet.
Yeah.
When you look at UCLA, man, it's like that snowball that just starts rolling, and it gets bigger and bigger, and you just can't stop it. And that just seems like what's going on there. And UCLA, man, when things aren't going well, that's a tough place to win, a tough place to recruit. And I was talking with my buddies this week, and we were watching some ball. I'm like, dude, go look at UCLA's schedule, man. They're easy. They're 2 of their 3 easiest games occurred in the first 3 weeks. Like, they might not win a game now. And when you're a touchdown dog headed into Northwestern, that's saying something. So I'm gonna roll with, I'm not gonna bet on a team that has shown me nothing. I haven't seen much of Northwestern as well, but I certainly haven't seen. I think there'd be headlines if Northwestern was rolling as bad downhill as UCLA. So I'm gonna roll with the Wildcats. Was formerly committed there. Show some love back to those guys. Give me them to win by a touchdown.
There you have it. I'm not calling you out, Grant, but you did say I haven't seen much. You haven't seen anything from UCLA. They haven't seen a lot from Northwestern. They got beat by 20. They got beat by 20.
That's what I mean. I said I didn't see much from Northwestern, but it can't be as bad as UCLA. So I'm going to take the team that's probably a smidge better, not in the media for the wrong reasons as much.
Yeah, fair. And what were we laughing about before we started recording? We were trying to figure out who Northwestern had a win against and couldn't tell by the logo. You're like, yeah, it's a bulldog of some sort. That would be Western Illinois. They beat 42-7. got handled by Tulane, got handled by Oregon. So, like I said,
And like another point to that is the new rule adaptation is when when a coach is fired, that portal opens up for you. So I don't know who's in that portal. And the big talk is Nico going to jump in it again? So
exactly.
I'm not going with a team that's already talking about portal talk 4 weeks in. So I'll use that as my research for the Wildcats.
Yeah, a few teams across the country dealing with that. Oklahoma State fired Mike Gundy. Yeah, it's early. It's getting late early for some of these programs, Grant, as they say. Well, dude, last but certainly not least, the biggest game of the weekend across all of college football, top 6 matchup, prime time, NBC, 7:30, Oregon, the Ducks coming to Beaver Stadium, bro. Like Oregon at Penn State at night. I don't know if they're doing a whiteout, Grant. Have they announced that yet? If they're not, they should.
I don't. Why would you have a game at night and not do a whiteout?
Yes.
I don't even know how that's a topic of conversation. We're gonna blue out and make sure no one can see us and feel us. Like
you gotta
that
go
whiteout is crazy, man.
You gotta go white pom poms. You gotta do it all. And here is another example, Grant. We're kind of developing a trend here of where it's tough to play at night. Beaver Stadium.
Yeah.
Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Like, bro, it maybe number one. I mean, in the discussion, I think certainly in the discussion for one of the toughest places to play at night. There's a few others you could throw in there, but that's as tough a place to play as there is in the country. 2 really good teams, 2 good quarterbacks, lots of speed, good on defense. I like both coaches. Love Dan Lanning. James Franklin, he does some things here and there. I've often referred to him as a bit of a dunce cap. I like James Franklin. I do. He's kind of has this reputation of not being able to do, win the big one, or he always makes some bonehead mistake. Well, we're gonna see, because this is the kind of game where your coach has to step up and do it all right. And Penn State, this might be that home field advantage speaking here, Grant. Just a 3.5 point favorite, but I mean, this feels like a pick 'em, dude. Give me the Ducks. Give me the Ducks. I don't know about the win outright. I kind of feel like to win outright. Do. Dan Lanning is such an impressive coach to me, and I just feel like he's going to have something ready. But that place is going to be an absolute zoo. And I mean, I can't wait to watch this. When we talked about at the beginning of the show, no Michigan this week to focus on. How excited are we about these big games? Yeah, pencil me in for this one, dude. I'll be locked in.
Yeah, this is, you go to school and you take tests so that teacher can see, how's his development? Is he learning the material? Well, this is one of those weeks where it's a test and we get to find out some answers about the Big Ten. We got a little glimpse into it last week with Illinois and Indiana. That was somewhat glaring. And this week we get 2 of the biggest heads in the Big Ten going at it in one of the toughest. I mean, both of them have a very, very tough environment to play. But Penn State, I mean, that's one of one. I mean, you go look at the Big Ten media and what they put out, and they ask the coaches and the players, like, where's the hardest place to play? Like 90% say Penn State. Yeah. And I've coached there. I've played there. It is talk about having a 12th man on the field. It feels like they're reaching out and pulling you and slowing you down and waving things around your ear so you can't hear. With that being said, though, I look back at that Big Ten championship game last year, and there's some different pieces. Dylan Gabriel's not there. There's some different pieces on both sides. Penn State rushed for like 280, 209, like almost 3 bills, and still lost that game. Now that game was on a neutral site, in Indy, but man, when you look at both these teams, offense for Oregon steps up, jumps off the page. Like they have been scoring it at a very high rate, and they've been doing it, really, really well. Penn State, on the other hand, they've been a little bit slower. It's kind of like, what's going on? Drew Aller, where's the deep ball? Are those receivers that transferred in really going to be the difference maker? I'm going to pick Penn State in this one. I'm going to say that the run game continues. They get that 200, maybe 230 on the ground again, because one of the things that does have a circle mark and a question around it is Oregon's run defense. And I think Penn State can get ahead of the chains, can get Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton going and chugging along. I think they do 200, 250 again, but in Penn, at Penn State, not at the Big Ten championship game. I'll take Penn State in this one. James Franklin, if we're going off preseason predictions, I kind of need the Penn State Nittany Lions here to come through. I got them winning the Big Ten. I got Nicholas Singleton Player of the Year. Like, I got a lot of things right on Penn State. So I'm going to say that James Franklin turns a new leaf and gets that big win here this week.
I have a question for you about this matchup, and it's the transitive property does not work in football. Like, if you beat this team, and then you should beat that's not a thing. Everybody knows that. You got to play it, you got to line it up, you got to play them all individually. Penn State hasn't played anybody with a pulse yet. 3 non-Power 4 teams, 1 FCS team in Villanova. FIU, they beat 34-0. Nevada, they beat 46. I mean, just not tested at all. Now you look at Oregon. I don't know how much they've been tested by who they've played, but they've at least played 3 Power 4 teams: Oklahoma State, Oregon State, and Northwestern, and boat raced all of them. I mean, all of them. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about the roster makeup of FIU or Villanova, but I would have to think that Oregon State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern's beating those teams. I think. I know Northwestern's not that great. Oklahoma State's going through what they're going through. Oregon State, they're kind of like this odd man out team, whatever. I just wonder, Grant, if that makes a difference to you at this point with this particular matchup. I mean, I can't say either of these teams have been, battle tested, but it does seem like, Oregon's at least seen, some higher level athletes, maybe a little bit more speed, bigger, stronger, faster kind of guys. I don't know. That's kind of my thought coming in. I don't know if it matters at all. Once you line it up in that stadium and get ready to go toe to toe with the Nittany Lions, but that's something to look at for these first, 3 or 4 games for each team.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point there too. Just the level of competition that both these teams have played, you give the edge to Oregon for sure. And then I'd throw you, a little devil's advocate there. Well, hey, obviously Oregon has ran and boat raced these teams, but have they been in a dogfight? Have they had, now
they don't even know what it's like to play a tough one yet.
Right. And the opponents that Penn State's has finished against and beaten are not top tier teams, but they've had to, somewhat dig deep and maybe go a little bit deeper in that playbook and had to have, come out of a little bit, maybe a hole, and maybe the offense isn't, getting the ball moving as well as they wanted to. So I don't know. I'm going to roll with the team that's got the home field advantage. Dante Moore, he's proven himself that he's really good thus far this season. This will be his biggest test, to his career. So I think and let's not forget here too, I got a little birdie that I almost forgot to mention. Penn State's got a little someone called Jim Knowles operating that defense again. Jim Knowles went against Oregon twice last year. Best believe that man has got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Lost in the first round, second round, they ended up destroying Oregon in the playoffs, where it looked like Oregon didn't even know what to do. So give me Jim Knowles and that Penn State defense to switch things up a little bit. Maybe, they weren't showing everything versus those 3 FCS teams, but I'm going to roll Penn State on this one.
Can't wait to watch it. I think I'm going to go Ducks outright. You're talking -3.5 as the spread. That's essentially yeah. And I'm going to go with the Ducks. I'm going to go with the Ducks outright money line. And again, all these numbers, all these spreads brought to you by FanDuel here on the Bleav Network. Grant, we're almost 35 minutes in talking these 6 matchups in the Big Ten. That means what? 6 teams on a bye this week. If my Central Michigan math is correct there. So yeah, a lot of teams taking a break this week, Michigan included. We talked about that at the top of the show, but some really, really good games this week. 3 of them that I'm quite intrigued by: USC at Illinois, Ohio State going out to Washington, then of course Oregon at Penn State, and even some of the lower level games. Like, what does that UCLA team look like now? Just they're just reeling. Rutgers and Minnesota trying to battle it out in the middle of the conference, so to speak. And then, Indiana at Iowa was another pretty good game too. So I'm excited for the weekend, Grant. I know you are too. We will be back again next week to talk the results of some of these games and then to look ahead at next week's slate. He's Grant Perry. I'm Brandon Brown. We'll see you next week.